Rebel's Edge, Mark. Bang.
Let's go.
Welcome, everybody. I'm back in Chicago, and we've got 900 private security guards helping, I guess, protect NASCAR from Chicago. Because we've got a NASCAR race right through the streets of Chicago, Mark.
Oh, what could go wrong, John? What could possibly go wrong?
Well, they've already stolen a bunch of the wheels right off the cars, in some cases as the cars were moving. But
wow,
that's the Chicago way, to quote Sean Connery. But folks, welcome to the Rebel Edge. You probably recognize Marc LoPresti, from CNBC, from Fox Biz, from Fox News with Maria Bartiromo, from TD Ameritrade, and a host of other places, as well as, of course, right here on the Rebel's Edge. You'll also be able to put a face to that voice that you hear on Bulls, Bears, and Blockchain.
That's right.
Every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday at 5:30 Eastern Daylight Time. So welcome, Mark. Great to have you, man.
Thank you, John. And I'm coming to you from a far more bucolic and apparently safer from a vehicular perspective, Southampton, New York, out in the Hamptons, or the Hamps as they're called. I don't know who calls it that. I just made that up. Where I am a featured keynote speaker, as indicated by my tag here, at Hamptons Tech Week, which is a pretty cool gathering of both entrepreneurs, startups in technology. Of course, lots of talk about AI and cloud computing and really interesting stuff. But not only these young startup entrepreneurs, but also some folks here, C-level folks from some of the larger industries, some companies that we may even talk about and cover today. So greetings from the Hamptons. It is summer. It's time to be out here.
Yeah, well, great to have you. And obviously, nobody works harder than Mark and John on a summer Thursday, because we've already done the Money Show virtual conference. Now we're doing this. Mark will do, as he said, go up on stage again this afternoon. He was speaking and moderating yesterday at Hamptons Tech Week. And then we do Bulls, Bears, and Blockchain tonight at 5:30 Eastern. Mark. So the biggest challenge will be for you to stay away from the bar long enough to get your contributions in at 5:30 Eastern, because obviously the weekend is upon us. Almost.
It is almost there.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with the macro minute, folks. First quarter GDP gets a massive upgrade. Apparently, consumers back spending again to the fastest pace in 2 years. But that was just before we topped $1 trillion in credit card debt, Mark.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll get a similar upgrade for the second quarter when that comes out.
No chance. I think there's just no chance. People have to understand, this is obviously good news. This is what Jay Powell wants to see in the context of deciding whether or not to pause or hike. But this is old data. This is a revision for Q1. Major upside revision, a 70 basis point delta between the initial and the revisions, massive when it comes to GDP. Certainly good news, but it's old news. And I think you're not going to see anywhere near that when the Q2 revision comes out.
Well, let's dive, Mark, into the fantastic futures.
Fantastic futures.
Yesterday, I talked about palladium, Mark, and our stellar video and graphics person, Jared, the producer of the show, really looked into it and said, John, do you know why palladium has been down so much? It's an input into catalytic converters. That's one of the largest uses for it. And with more and more EVs, people are basically dumping out of a lot of their palladium holdings. That, and maybe the fact, Mark, that Russia is really big in palladium export Maybe that has a little something to do with it as well. But today it's platinum that's down 3% so far, the precious metal that obviously is somewhat a competitor to gold. Oh, sorry about that, folks. We just had Mark and we had him and lost him. But nonetheless, we're going to soldier on. Hopefully we get Mark back on from Hampton's Tech Week, where apparently they need a little tech help in Mark's hotel room. Joby is what I'm going to hit next, folks, because this one, we talked about it yesterday. These are, in fact, I see Mark starting to come back now. Joby, this is a company that does vertical lift and takeoff and landing for ride sharing. And it's basically like a giant drone that human beings sit inside of and then can fly from point A to point B. And we talked about them getting an airworthiness permit that could lead to them being able to take their first commercial flights in 2025. That was enough for a 44% jump over the last 2 days. And since we talked about it yesterday, Mark, this is one that we had unusual activity yesterday as well, which was in the July 9 calls. And these July 9 calls exploded from perhaps 40 or 50 cents to $2.90 today. So bang, I know you're a big aeronautics. Oh, and there he is back again. Something happening weird out there in Hamptons, Mark. But I think he's back again now, folks. Mark, what do you think about Joby, or, basically an Uber of the air? Well,
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if you all can hear me.
We can hear you now, sir.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Yes, the gods of Wi-Fi are apparently dueling with Mark at this very moment, folks. And for that reason, he's having trouble connecting. I'll wait till I hear Jared say we've got a good connection. But in the meantime, I'm going to jump from Joby. And by the way, if you want a BOGO, that is a buy one, get one free, you can go to marketrebellion.com/bang. That's marketrebellion.com/bang. And we will give you 2 months for the price of one. So that would be $199, or call it $100 a month for those 2 months. And guess what? That one trade that I just described in Joby, those options they closed at 70 cents yesterday, which would mean $70 per option. So if you bought 10 of those, you would have spent $700, and you could have turned that today into the $2.90, which would be $2,900. So think of that. That's $2,200 profit on a 10-lot option trade in one day. And you're paying just $199 for those 2 months. Again, less than $100 a month. Go to marketrebellion.com/bang for more of that. All right. I know that Jared and Mark are trying to get Mark back on here. And I see on the director's view that I can see here that Mark is almost back. As soon as he is, Jared, let me know. In the meantime, folks, we're going to take a look at Overstock. Oh, he's back. Fantastic. Mark, Overstock.com. Do you really think that there's that much value in Bed Bath & Beyond, intellectual property, the names, the websites, and so forth? Because they paid about $30 million for it, I think $28 million or something. And now they're going to relaunch it in Canada and the US. What do you think?
Well, the plan with respect to these intellectual property assets that we've been covering on this show and others for a week or so now has finally come to light. The Overstock name is going away, John. The whole Overstock enterprise, it's been called Overstock since our friend Patrick Byrne founded it way back when,
Yep.
is now going to be called Bed Bath & Beyond. That was not clear to us prior to the approval of the deal by the bankruptcy court. We now understand that that's what Overstock's plan is, to completely rebrand as Bed Bath & Beyond. Fitting, I think. And look, this is a company, and I've said before when we've covered the story, they know a bargain when they see one. They know, and they've made a business out of passing those bargains along to consumers. I think this is going to work. Do I think that the stock pop is on a relative basis commensurate with the excitement and what really is going to happen from a revenue perspective? Probably not. I would take profits.
I would too. And it's nothing against the company, as you say, that Patrick Byrne founded. You were nice enough to let me host him and be the moderator for a panel with him at Battlefin, Miami. So Mark got Patrick down there for that. Maybe we'll get him back on for a Rebels Edge extra where Mark and I can talk to Patrick, because what an interesting character. And knock on wood, I think his health is improving dramatically. He's had a number of health issues, but seems like he's on the road to recovery. All right, Mark, how about Blackberry, BB? This one up double digits, and a lot of the I guess excitement for the stock comes from the idea that their cybersecurity is really starting to bear fruit over there at Blackberry. We, of course, knew them forever as Research in Motion. You know, the parent company, Blackberry, produced those things. President Obama never wanted to give his up. And I think there's a lot of other folks that never wanted to give up their Blackberries. But what do you think of this one with a double-digit pop on cybersecurity, Mark?
Well, listen, we're bullish on cyber. And in fact, we're going to have a panel here in about 10 minutes with our friend of the show, Brigadier General Anthony Tata, on the role of cybersecurity in the national security picture. Very important. So we are definitely cybersecurity bulls. Not in every company involved, but in some particular sectors that we like. This is an interesting move on BlackBerry's part. We're going to see whether or not, again, whether this pop is commensurate with what it actually means in terms of the bottom line. I would also say take some profit on this one if you have it. And that's for the people that didn't react to this story and say, wait a second, BlackBerry's still in business? Which is sort of the first reaction for a lot of folks. But if for more on that story, John, you can hit me on my hip. Remember that? The kids used to say? That was a BlackBerry reference.
Yeah, I remember Robin Williams in Pan, the Disney movie Pan. I think he reached down and they were like dueling to see who could get to their phone faster, their BlackBerry faster out of that hip hugger or whatever it was. All right, let's talk about Micron, Mark. I know you got to get off to your panel pretty quick. Micron, it went from up 4% to down 4% like that. The report looked pretty good. They lost less than expected. Revenue was more than expected, but then they gave all that pre-market gain up.
Yeah, listen, I think this was one of those cases of really conservative forward-looking guidance. We've talked about this a lot, where in this environment going on for about a year or so now, that CEOs have learned that the street is going to reward you far more for being, under-promising, over-delivering, providing careful guidance, particularly in the demand contraction story that we're looking at going into the fourth quarter of this year. I think this stock, still has a lot of opportunity in it. One of the leaders in the chip space, of course. So we shall see.
Absolutely. And Micron is one of those companies, of course, folks, that is probably a top 10 company in the AI space as well. NVIDIA always gets the top spot, but everything from Palantir to Micron is part of that AI boom as well as Microsoft. But we'll talk more about that another day. All right, Mark, sports. Without Pete here, I thought we'd maybe take a quick stab at some of your legal eagle expertise, because Mark is a recovering lawyer, folks. And the NFL is meting out suspensions as much as a full year suspension for people that have basically passive sports betting in their past. This involves a cornerback for the Indianapolis Colts and several other players. The NFL is pretty strict about this, Mark.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. It's also an indication of how the league thinks about gambling, right? There's other components of professional sports that have been more willing to adopt and allow legalized gambling, into the league, whatever that means. And of course, that is a trend that is, I think, unstoppable in a lot of senses. But yeah, great reporting, of course, by our friend Adam Schefter over at ESPN, one of the best in the business. Curious to know what pervasive betting means. It sounds like quite a lot, right? If it's being deemed pervasive. But yeah, it's an overall indication of how the league views sports gambling in general, much more negatively than other pro sport leagues, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, it turns out, folks, that Mark is out at Tech Week with a great friend of ours, Jack Wyatt, who is one of the principal owners of the Cincinnati Reds. And Cincinnati Reds just coming off a fabulous win streak, Mark. And I know that one of his players really caught your eye when you were lucky enough to fly out there and enjoy his hospitality at Cincinnati Reds Stadium.
Yeah, that was it was a terrific opportunity to join Jack in the owner's box and watch the Reds beat my hometown Mets. Actually, was the game when I was there with Jack a couple of weeks ago. Going to be back there in Cincinnati, I think on the 19th of July for another important game with some special guests. Yeah, I mean, listen, an 11-game run, remarkable 11-game run, and Ella, it's spelled Ellie, but it's pronounced Ella de la Cruz. Unbelievable, 21-year-old kid from the DR. So much talent in the DR. That minor league team that I'm involved with, John, over in New Jersey that you hear about from time to time, half of their, if not three-quarters of their starting lineup are from the DR. Incredible talent. But this kid is breaking records in terms of how fast he throws the ball, how fast he runs from first base to third base, how far. He almost hit one during this 11-game streak into the damn Ohio River, which would have been a remarkable feat. And a lot of baseball experts comparing him as a switch hitter, comparing him to Mickey Mantle and saying that this kid may be one of the greatest that we've seen in the past 10 or 20 years. And as a 21-year-old upstart, he's got a lot of room to run and grow. So we're very excited. I think he's going to continue to make Cincinnati proud. And it's been really fun to be somewhat tangentially involved with the team through our friendship with Jack and sort of feel that the passion that so many people in the Midwest feel for what is the oldest and the first baseball team in the United States.
Wow. Just to wind up real quick then, Mark, and again, please do give my best to Jack and all the folks at Tech Week, including General Tata. College sports viewership through the roof. Yep. I see that the College World Series drew 2.8 million viewers, up 75% from the final two games of last year. Women's championship basketball, I thought that one was amazing. I don't know if women's basketball on college or pro has ever been anywhere close to this. Do you believe that number, Mark, for the LSU Iowa?
I do. And, you got to think that some of the name, image, likeness, the nil agreements, the freedom, right, at the college level that these athletes have to promote their personal brand, to monetize their personal brand, if maybe a secondary consequence of that is deeper engagement with the fans as they can get to know these people, they can promote themselves in a more meaningful way as compared to the pros. So, yeah, absolutely. And it also, look, it speaks directly to the continued growth in the American demand for sports broadcasting. It continues to be one of the most valuable content categories in broadcast.
Yeah. Well, folks, we have a great friend, Mark and I do, Tannenbaum, who's certainly very familiar to ESPN viewers, just like Adam Schefter is. And maybe we'll get both of those guys on sometime, Mark, for a Rebels Edge Extra. But remember, folks, tune in tonight if you are available to join us on our Twitter space. It's 5:30 Eastern time tonight. Marc LoPresti will be there. I will be there. We will have Alex Macioli bringing the crypto heat for bulls, bears, and blockchain. And Twitter Spaces 5:30 Eastern time tonight. So Marc, have a great time out there at Hamptons Tech Week. And again, enjoy your time on stage with Brigadier General Tony Tata.
I will. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks to Pete for letting me fill in for him today. It's always a pleasure to address the great Rebel Nation Market Rebellion. Thank you so much.
Bang. Have a great one, everybody.